What happens when a young woman walks into a luxury showroom with stained clothes and tired hands? What will the manager do when he sees her asking about the most expensive car? And how will this moment change everything when her father arrives? Sit back and find out as we dive into this powerful story of judgment, humiliation, and a shocking revelation that will leave you speechless. Keep watching to uncover the surprising twist. Eleanor Hayes was a 24-year-old woman living in Abuja, Nigeria. She worked as a junior mechanic at her uncle's auto repair shop in Ikeja. Every day she wore her work uniform, a simple blue shirt and black trousers that were often stained with grease and oil. Her hands were rough from handling tools, and her nails were never perfectly clean. But Eleanor didn't mind. She loved her work. She loved fixing engines, solving problems, and learning something new every single day. Eleanor's father, Minister Benjamin Hayes, was the Minister of Transportation. He was a powerful man, well respected across the country, but Eleanor had made a choice early in life. She didn't want to live off her father's wealth or use his name to get ahead. She wanted to earn her own way, to prove to herself that she could stand on her own 2 feet. So she worked at her uncle's shop, earning a modest salary, living in a small apartment, and taking public transport to work every day. Her father respected her decision, though he worried about her safety and wished she would accept more help. He admired her strength and independence. Eleanor was his only daughter, and he loved her deeply. But he also knew she had to find her own path. Still, he kept a close eye on her, always ready to step in if she ever needed him. Eleanor's uncle, Uncle Thomas, often told her she was wasting her potential. You could be living in a mansion, driving a fancy car, working in an air-conditioned office, he would say, shaking his head. Instead, you're here, covered in grease, earning a fraction of what you could be making. But Eleanor would just smile. Uncle Thomas, I'm happy here. I'm learning real skills. I'm earning my own money. That means more to me than any mansion ever could. Uncle Thomas would sigh and pat her shoulder. You're just like your mother, stubborn and independent. Your father must be both proud and frustrated at the same time. Eleanor would laugh. He is, but he understands that's what matters. One Saturday morning, Eleanor decided to visit a luxury car showroom in Victoria Island. Her father had been hinting for months that he wanted to buy her a car. At first, Eleanor had refused. She didn't need a fancy car. She was happy taking the bus or riding with her uncle. But her father had insisted. Eleanor, my dear, he had said one evening, his voice gentle but firm. You work hard every day. You deserve something good. Let me do this for you. Not because you can't do it yourself, but because I'm your father and I want to. After weeks of his gentle persistence, Eleanor had finally agreed, but she had one condition. She wanted to choose the car herself. Her father had smiled and nodded. Of course, my dear. You pick whatever you like, and I'll take care of the rest. So that morning, Eleanor finished her shift at the repair shop, quickly washed her hands, and headed to the showroom. She didn't bother changing her clothes. She was only going to look at cars after all. What did it matter what she wore? The showroom was called Premier Motors, and it was one of the most exclusive car dealerships in Abuja. The building was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling glass windows that displayed rows of shining luxury vehicles. Inside, the floors were polished marble, the air was cool and perfumed, and soft music played in the background. Everything about the place screamed wealth and status. As Eleanor pushed open the glass door and stepped inside, she immediately felt the shift in atmosphere. The showroom was filled with well-dressed salespeople in crisp suits and polished shoes. A few customers were browsing, all of them dressed in expensive clothes, designer handbags, and gleaming jewelry. Eleanor walked in slowly, her eyes scanning the rows of cars. She spotted a beautiful silver SUV near the back of the showroom. Sleek and powerful looking, that was the one. She could already imagine herself driving it, the engine humming smoothly beneath her hands. But as she walked toward the SUV, she noticed the stares. A young saleswoman near the entrance glanced at her, then quickly looked away, whispering something to a colleague. Another salesman, standing by a red sports car, wrinkled his nose slightly and turned his back. Eleanor felt the weight of their judgment. But she ignored it. She was used to being underestimated. She approached the silver SUV and stood in front of it, admiring its design, the curves of the body, the tinted windows, the powerful tires. It was perfect. "Excuse me," Eleanor called out to a nearby salesman, a young man in a navy blue suit. "Can you tell me more about this model?" The salesman looked up from his phone, glanced at Eleanor, and then looked back down at his screen. "That car is very expensive," he said flatly, not even bothering to walk over to her. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "I didn't ask about the price. I asked about the model." The salesman sighed. Clearly annoyed, he pocketed his phone and walked over slowly. His expression one of thinly veiled irritation. "It's the latest model, top of the line, leather seats. Advanced safety features. Powerful engine, it costs 45 million naira. Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds good. Can I take a closer look inside?" The salesman's eyes narrowed. He looked her up and down, taking in her stained shirt, her rough hands, and her simple appearance. Then he let out a short mocking laugh. "Madam, this car is not for people like you." Eleanor blinked, surprised by his rudeness. "Excuse me?" "I said this car is not for people like you," the salesman repeated. Louder this time, a few other staff members turned to look, and a couple of customers glanced over curiously. "Do you even know how much 45 million naira is? You look like you just came from a mechanic shop." Eleanor's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "I did just come from a mechanic shop, I work there. But that doesn't mean I can't afford this car." The salesman laughed again. And this time, a few other staff members joined in. One of them, a woman in a tight pencil skirt, whispered to her colleague, loud enough for Eleanor to hear, "She probably thinks she can buy it with her monthly salary." Another salesman, standing near the entrance, smirked and said, "Maybe she's here to clean the cars, not buy them." The laughter grew louder. Eleanor stood there, her face flushing with embarrassment. She had expected judgment, but not this level of cruelty. These people didn't know her, they didn't know her story. Yet they had already decided she wasn't worth their time. A customer, a woman in her 30s wearing designer sunglasses, walked past Eleanor and whispered loudly to her friend, "Can you believe they let anyone walk in here these days? Standards are really dropping." Her friend giggled. "I know. Right, next thing you know, they'll be allowing Okada riders to test drive the cars." Eleanor's chest tightened. She wanted to defend herself, to tell them they were wrong. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, she just stood there, feeling smaller and smaller with each passing second. Then, from the back of the showroom, a man's voice rang out. "What's going on here?" The laughter stopped immediately. All heads turned toward the voice. A tall man in an expensive gray suit walked toward them, his shoes clicking sharply against the marble floor. This was Mr. Lucas Okafor, the manager of Premier Motors. He was in his mid-40s with a round face, a thick mustache, and an air of authority that demanded attention. The young salesman straightened up quickly. "Sir, this woman was asking about the SUV. But I was just explaining that it's out of her budget." Mr. Okafor looked at Eleanor, his eyes scanning her appearance with obvious disdain. His lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't a kind one. It was the smile of someone who enjoyed putting others in their place. "Out of her budget," Mr. Okafor repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He walked closer to Eleanor, looking her up and down as if she were something unpleasant he had stepped in. "My dear, do you even know what kind of establishment this is? This is Premier Motors. We sell luxury vehicles to ministers, senators, business tycoons, not to..." He paused, letting his eyes linger on her stained shirt. "Mechanics," a few customers chuckled. The staff members exchanged amused glances. Eleanor felt her chest tighten, but she refused to let them see her break. "I understand that," Eleanor said quietly, her voice steady. "But I would still like to see the car," Mr. Okafor let out aloud. exaggerated laugh. You would like to see the car? He turned to his staff, spreading his arms theatrically. Did you hear that? She would like to see the car. The entire showroom erupted in laughter. Even some of the customers joined in. Shaking their heads in amusement, Eleanor stood there, feeling the weight of their mockery pressing down on her. She wanted to leave, to walk out and never come back. But something inside her refused to move. She would not give them the satisfaction. Mr. Okafor walked around Eleanor in a slow circle, as if inspecting her. Tell me something, my dear. How much do you make in a month? 5万 naira. 8万. Even if you saved every kobo for 10 years, you still wouldn't be able to afford the down payment on this car. One of the saleswomen laughed. Sir, she probably doesn't even have a bank account or a driver's license, another added. And the laughter grew louder. Eleanor's hands clenched into fists at her sides. Her nails dug into her palms as she fought to keep her composure. She had dealt with judgment before. But this was different. This was public humiliation. And they were enjoying it. Listen. My dear, Mr. Okafor said, his tone now patronizing. I don't know who told you that you could afford a car like this. But they lied to you. This isn't your level. Go to one of those small dealerships in Ikea or Sorler. You'll find something more suitable for your income. Maybe a used Toyota or a small Honda. Something within your reach. Or maybe a bicycle. One of the salesmen muttered. And the room erupted in laughter again. Eleanor felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. But she blinked them back. She would not cry in front of these people. She would not give them that satisfaction. Just as she was about to turn and leave, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a message from her father. On my way, my dear. Don't make any decisions without me. Eleanor took a deep breath. She looked up at Mr. Okafor and said quietly, I'll wait. Mr. Okafor raised an eyebrow. Wait for what? For your miracle money to appear. No, Eleanor said. Her voice calm despite the storm raging inside her. I'm waiting for my father, Mr. Okafor laughed. Your father? What is he going to do? Take out a loan he can't afford, my dear. Please don't waste my time or yours. This is a business. Not a charity. Eleanor didn't respond. She simply walked to a bench near the entrance and sat down. Her hands folded in her lap. The staff members exchanged confused glances, unsure what to make of her sudden calmness. She's delusional, one saleswoman whispered. Probably thinks her father is some rich man, another replied. Or maybe she's just stubborn, a third added with a shrug. Mr. Okafor shook his head and walked back to his office. Muttering under his breath about time-wasters and people who didn't know their place, Eleanor sat there quietly. Ignoring the stares and whispers around her, she checked her watch. Her father would be here in less than 10 minutes. She just had to hold on a little longer. A young couple entered the showroom, well-dressed and clearly wealthy. The staff immediately rushed to greet them, all smiles and politeness. Eleanor watched as they were offered drinks, given brochures, and treated with the utmost respect. The contrast was painful. But Eleanor said nothing. She just waited. 5 minutes passed, then 7, then 9, and then the sound of engines roared outside. Everyone froze. The deep, powerful rumble of multiple engines filled the air, growing louder and louder through the glass windows. A convoy of sleek black SUVs pulled up in front of the showroom, their tinted windows gleaming in the sunlight. The vehicles were identical, all of them brand new, all of them marked with small government flags on the front. The laughter in the showroom died instantly. The staff members exchanged nervous glances. The customers stopped what they were doing and stared at the convoy outside. Mr. Okafor's face went pale. He recognized those vehicles. He knew exactly what they meant. The doors of the lead SUV opened, and several security guards stepped out. They were dressed in black suits. Their faces serious and professional, they moved quickly, positioning themselves around the entrance of the showroom. Then from the center vehicle, a man stepped out. Minister Benjamin Hayes. He was a tall man in his late 50s, with graying hair, a sharp suit, and an air of authority that commanded respect. He walked with confidence, his security team flanking him on both sides. As he approached the glass doors, the staff inside scrambled to attention. Everyone straightened up, their faces suddenly full of respect and fear. Minister Hayes pushed open the door and stepped inside. The entire showroom fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. His eyes scanned the room, moving past the nervous staff, past the wide-eyed customers, until they landed on Eleanor. His stern expression softened immediately. A warm smile spread across his face. "My dear," he said, his voice gentle and affectionate. "I told you to wait for me before choosing the car." Eleanor's face broke into a smile, the tension melting away from her shoulders. She stood up and walked toward him. "I'm sorry, Dad. I just wanted to look first." The word Dad echoed through the showroom like a gunshot. Mr. Okafor's face went from pale to white. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, but no sound came out. The young salesman who had mocked Eleanor took a step back, his eyes wide with horror. The other staff members stared in shock, their faces frozen in disbelief. The young couple who had just been attended to exchanged glances, their eyes wide. The saleswoman who had been helping them whispered, "That's Minister Hayes, the Minister of Transportation." Minister Hayes walked over to Eleanor and wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "Did you find something you like?" he asked, his tone warm and loving. Eleanor nodded, pointing at the silver SUV. "That one, Dad, I really like it." Minister Hayes looked at the car and nodded approvingly. "Good choice, it's perfect for you." Then he turned to Mr. Okafor, his expression hardening. "I assume you can arrange the paperwork immediately?" Mr. Okafor stammered, his hands trembling. Yes, sir." "Of course, sir. Right away, sir." Minister Hayes's eyes narrowed. "Before we proceed, I'd like to know something. How was my daughter treated when she came in here?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Mr. Okafor's face turned red. He glanced at Eleanor, then back at the minister, his mouth opening and closing uselessly. Eleanor placed a hand on her father's arm. "Dad, it's okay." "No, Eleanor," Minister Hayes said firmly, his voice calm but filled with authority. "It's not okay. I want to know." One of the customers, an older woman in a designer dress, stepped forward nervously. "Sir, if I may. The manager and his staff were very rude to your daughter. They laughed at her. They mocked her appearance and told her she couldn't afford to be here. They said terrible things." Minister C's jaw tightened. He turned to Mr. Okafor, his eyes cold. "Is this true?" Mr. Okafor's hands shook. "Sir, I didn't know. I didn't realize ... You didn't realize what?" Minister Hayes's voice was sharp now, cutting through the air like a knife. "That she was my daughter. Or that every person who walks into your showroom deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of how they look." Mr. Okafor's face crumbled. I'm so sorry, sir. Please, sorry?" Minister Hayes interrupted. "You're sorry now, because you know who she is. But if I hadn't shown up, you would have continued mocking her. You would have humiliated her and sent her away." The entire showroom watched in tense silence. The staff members looked at the floor, their faces burning with shame. The customer stood frozen, unsure whether to stay or leave. One of the security guards stepped forward and whispered something in Minister Hayes's ear. The minister nodded, his expression grim. He turned back to Mr. Okafor. "I've just been informed that Premier Motors has been shortlisted for a major government contract. A contract worth billions of naira to supply vehicles for various ministries and agencies. Is that correct?" Mr. Okafor's eyes widened. "Yes, sir. We've been working very hard on that proposal. It would be the biggest contract in our company's history." Minister Hayes nodded slowly. "I see. And you're aware that the Minister of Transportation has significant influence over that decision?" Mr. Okafor's face went pale. He nodded weakly. Minister Hayes turned to Eleanor. "My dear, I want you to know something. You don't need my name or my position to be treated with dignity. You are valuable because of who you are. not because of who I am. But since these people only seem to understand power and status, let me make something very clear. He turned back to Mr. Okafor, his voice calm but filled with steel. I am the Minister of Transportation. I have significant influence over government contracts, including those related to vehicle procurement. Premier Motors has been on the list of potential suppliers for the federal fleet, but after today, I will personally ensure that your company is removed from that list. Not just that. I will make sure every relevant government agency knows about how you treat ordinary citizens who walk into your establishment. Mr. Okafor's face turned ashen. Sir, please, I beg you. This was a mistake. I didn't mean a mistake? Minister Hayes raised an eyebrow. A mistake is forgetting someone's name or making an error in paperwork. What you did was deliberate cruelty. You judged my daughter based on her appearance. And you humiliated her in front of your staff and customers. That is not a mistake. That is a choice. A choice that reveals your character. Mr. Okafor dropped to his knees. His hands clasped together. Tears streamed down his face. Please, sir, I'm begging you. I have a family, I have children. Please forgive me, I'll do anything. Anything at all. The staff members, seeing their manager on his knees, quickly followed suit. One by one, they bowed their heads, their voices trembling as they apologized. We're so sorry, ma'am, please forgive us. We didn't know. We were wrong. We were so wrong. The young salesman who had first mocked Eleanor was crying openly now. Ma'am, please, I'm so sorry. I have school fees to pay. I have bills. Please don't let me lose my job. I'm begging you. Eleanor looked around at the frightened faces, at the people who had mocked her just minutes ago. She felt her father's arm around her shoulder, strong and protective. Part of her wanted to walk away and let them suffer the consequences of their actions. But another part of her, the part that had been raised to be kind and forgiving, couldn't ignore their fear. She looked up at her father. Dad, can I say something? Minister Hayes nodded, his expression softening as he looked at his daughter. Eleanor turned to Mr. Okafor and the staff. Her voice was quiet but clear. What you did today was wrong. You judged me without knowing anything about me. You laughed at me, mocked me, and tried to make me feel small. That hurt. It hurt a lot. You made me feel like I was worth nothing, like I didn't deserve basic human respect. Mr. Okafor's head dropped lower, his shoulders shaking. Eleanor continued. But I also know that people make mistakes. People judge others every day without thinking about the consequences. I could let my father destroy your careers, and maybe you would deserve it. But I don't want to be the kind of person who uses power to hurt others, even when they've hurt me. She paused, letting her words sink in. So I'll forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I choose to. But I want you to remember something. Every person who walks through that door, whether they're wearing a suit or work clothes, whether they're rich or poor, deserves to be treated with respect. You never know who someone is or what they're capable of. So next time, before you judge someone, think twice. Think about how your words and actions can hurt. Think about the fact that behind every appearance is a human being with feelings, dreams, and dignity. The room was silent. Mr. Okafor looked up at Eleanor, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you so much. I will never forget this lesson. I swear it, I will change. I will be better. The staff members echoed his words, their voices filled with genuine remorse. Some of them were crying. Others had their heads bowed in shame. Minister Hayes looked at his daughter with pride. He squeezed her shoulder gently. You're a better person than I am. Eleanor smiled. I learned from you, Dad. You taught me that strength isn't about power or revenge. It's about choosing kindness even when it's hard. Minister Hayes turned to Mr. Okafor, his expression still stern. You have my daughter to thank for your job today, but let me be clear. If I ever hear of you treating anyone this way again, there will be no second chances. Do you understand? Mr. Okafor nodded quickly. Yes, sir, I understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I will change everything. I will train my staff. I will make sure this never happens again. Minister Hayes gestured to one of his security guards. Arrange the paperwork for the SUV. I want it ready within the hour. Yes, sir, the guard replied, moving quickly to speak with the showroom staff. As the staff scrambled to prepare the documents, Minister Hayes led Eleanor outside, away from the prying eyes and whispers. They stood together in the warm Abuja sun. The convoy of black SUVs still parked nearby. Are you okay? Minister Hayes asked, his voice full of concern. Eleanor nodded. I'm okay, Dad. I've dealt with worse. I know you have, Minister Hayes said quietly, and I'm proud of you for it. But you shouldn't have to deal with it. You're my daughter. And I will always protect you. Eleanor leaned her head against her father's shoulder. I know, Dad, but I also need to stand on my own sometimes. I need people to see me for who I am. Not just as your daughter. Minister Hayes sighed. I understand. But that doesn't mean I won't step in when someone disrespects you. You're my only child, Eleanor, my most precious treasure. I would move mountains for you. Eleanor smiled. I wouldn't expect anything less. They stood there together for a few moments. Father and daughter, sharing a quiet moment of understanding. Then Minister Hayes pulled back and looked at her seriously. Eleanor, I want you to know something. You have a good heart. You chose to forgive those people. Even though they didn't deserve it, that takes strength. Real strength. More strength than I have. Eleanor shook her head. You taught me that, Dad. You taught me to be kind even when it's hard. You taught me that true power isn't about crushing others. It's about lifting them up. Minister Hayes smiled, his eyes glistening slightly. Then I did something right. 20 minutes later. The paperwork was complete. The silver SUV was officially Eleanor's. Paid for in full by her father, the staff brought the keys to her. Their heads still bowed in shame. Mr. Okafor handed her the documents personally, his hands still trembling. Thank you for your kindness. Ma'am, he said quietly, I will never forget it. I promise you things will change here. I will make sure every customer is treated with respect. No matter who they are. Eleanor took the keys and nodded. Just remember what I said, treat everyone with respect. You never know whose life you might be affecting. I will, ma'am. I promise. Eleanor climbed into the driver's seat of her new SUV, her hands gripping the steering wheel. The leather seats were soft and comfortable, the dashboard gleaming with new technology. She looked out the window at her father, who stood nearby, smiling proudly. I'll follow you home, Minister Hayes called out. Eleanor nodded, starting the engine. The SUV roared to life, smooth and powerful. She pulled out of the showroom parking lot, her father's convoy following close behind. As she drove through the streets of Abuja, Eleanor couldn't help but smile. She had faced judgment, mockery, and cruelty. But she had also shown kindness, forgiveness, and strength. She had proven that dignity wasn't about how you looked or how much money you had. It was about how you treated others and how you carried yourself. The showroom incident became a story that spread quickly through Abuja. People talked about the young woman who had been mocked for her appearance, only to be revealed as the minister's daughter. But more than that, they talked about her kindness, her choice to forgive instead of seeking revenge. Mr. Okafor kept his promise. He changed the way he ran Premier Motors, training his staff to treat every customer with respect regardless of their appearance. He even put up a sign in the showroom that read, Every person deserves dignity, judged not by appearance, but by character. Eleanor continued working at her uncle's repair shop, still wearing her greasy work clothes, still getting her hands dirty. She loved her work, and she refused to change who she was just because people had expectations. She drove her new SUV to work every day, parking it proudly outside the shop. A reminder that success came in many forms. Her father visited her often, always checking in, always making sure she was okay, and every time he saw her, his heart swelled with pride. She was strong, independent, and kind. She was everything he had hoped she would be. One evening, a few weeks after the incident, Eleanor received a call from Mr. Okafor. She was surprised to hear from him. "Ma'am, I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said nervously. "I just wanted to let you know that we've implemented new training programs for all our staff. We're teaching them about respect, empathy, and the importance of treating every customer with dignity, and I wanted to thank you again. What you did that day changed me." "It changed all of us," Eleanor smiled. "I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Okafor. That's all I wanted, for things to be better." "They are better." Much better, and it's all because of you." As Eleanor hung up the phone, she felt a sense of peace. She had turned a moment of humiliation into an opportunity for change. She had shown that kindness was stronger than revenge, that forgiveness was more powerful than anger. As Eleanor stood at the crossroads of her life, she realized that true strength comes not from power or status, but from the ability to remain kind in the face of cruelty. Her journey from being judged and mocked to being respected and honored was proof that character matters more than appearance. The power of forgiveness, the importance of dignity, and the belief in treating others with respect, these are the qualities that define a person. Let this story remind us all that we should never judge anyone by how they look or what they wear. Success is not measured by the clothes we wear or the money in our pockets, but by the kindness we show and the respect we give to others. Eleanor's story shows that one person, armed with grace and strength, can change hearts and teach lessons that last a lifetime. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Please share your comments below, and I look forward to reading them. There's another very interesting story coming your way in a few days, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell. That way, you'll be the first to know when the next story is uploaded. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to me.